Cool. So welcome the three coaches who showed up and the possibly hundreds of millions of people watching this online after. This is our second to last webinar for this year, at least. This has been fun though, so I think we should continue it. And this week we've got Vicky and Taylor here with video and film and videography in FTC. Once again, brought to you by the Nerds of the North, FRC Team 568. Awesome. So these guys have had quite the presentation today. So they've got 3 parts about everything you need to know about filming. So from the software to the equipment to how to script it and how you get the finished project. And so once again, it's a pretty informal group. So you guys are welcome to unmute yourselves if you have questions. Once again, I'll be monitoring the chat. If anyone has questions, you can also post it in there. And yeah, with that, I'll hand it off to Taylor and then Vicky to introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. My name is Taylor Hecker. I'm currently a senior at Diamond High School. I joined FRC midway through my junior year, and I am the business manager, and I run all aspects of the business department, but I especially love video production. I had a lot of experience with that last year. If you've seen some of our videos in the last year, I've probably touched it. You've also probably had experience with me if you've ever interacted with any of our social media. I'm the person behind that. But I'm very excited to get to show everyone how awesome video production is.
All right, and I'm Vicky Necodomo. I'm one of the FRC coaches, and I'm also the K-12 STEM Outreach and Marketing Specialist for the UAA College of Engineering. I am very passionate about video and film. I get to make a lot of videos in my role at UAA, but also do freelance video work on the side, and it's just one of my biggest passions. So it's been great to get to teach FTC teams and FRC teams how to create videos as part of award submissions, but also as part of building their team identity and brand and using that as an avenue of communication to broader audiences.
Awesome. Well, if that'll pass over video to you guys.
Want me to share?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll share.
Okay, so we are a pretty small group today, so we can probably get through introductions really fast, but since I feel like everyone here might know each other, but I don't, so I would love to have everyone give an introduction, saying your name, your team, and then anything you hope to get out of this workshop today. It's going to be kind of more casual of a workshop, so we'll be able to talk to you guys a lot if you have any questions, so we'd love to hear just straight up front, like what you want to get from it. Let's start with Roach.
All right, I'm a FTC coach of the Diamond teams and an FRC coach as well. And I'm really interested in the sort of technical end of production at the back end when your project's done, how to make my video the smallest it can be or post it properly so people can see it properly. That's those sort of issues, like resolution issues, whether when I record video or I screen record things, is it the right size for putting into actual, video, whatever you call the end video part, production, post-production, or whatever it is, right?
And then how about Coach Emma Dietz?
Well, since I know absolutely nothing about videoing, period, zip, doodah, I'll take anything. I'll gather up all the little tidbits that fall from the table and hopefully learn something.
Awesome. And then Coach McLucky?
Yeah. I've been messing around with video production a little bit myself, but how to make it work with teams. So yeah, want to get started with that, especially nowadays.
Awesome. Thank you everybody for those introductions. So then we kind of have a follow-up question where, I mean, anyone can just unmute themselves and answer. So we want to know, how does video fit into FTC? And then what are some types of videos that you think FTC teams might benefit from creating?
I mean, I could say there's the Compass and Promote Awards that require video submissions. So that's the primary thing that probably FTC teams would use it for. So other things, if they have a web presence or something, trying to make a more dynamic web page with videos might be useful. But mostly those Compass and Promote Awards.
Just off the cuff, it might become more and more important if as we do more virtual things over time here. Who knows? I heard recently that we might go into the next school year still dealing with COVID-19. So, and that was from Department of Ed. So I think possibly it's the wave of the future. I hate to do a cliche there, but also I know a number of years ago, our team, when they first created their little mascot Hobobot for Alchemy, they had a blast doing just his little video thing to kind of get him out there. And so anyway, I think it'd be a lot of fun. I think it's a whole nother level that team members can get involved in.
My team has always wanted to make a robot reveal video. If I can learn some stuff from this as well.
I like all of those ideas and responses. I think all of them are 100% correct. So moving on. There we go. So starting kind of with the basic ingredients of a video in order to get our videos to do what you want them to do.
Sorry, I'm just changing the settings for streaming video.
Oh yes, we're gonna be showing you guys videos. Because gotta have examples. So what we're gonna do is we are going to show you one of the videos that FRC actually produced. And what we'd like you to do while you're looking at them is think about what you can hear, what you can see, what the video makes you think, and then also the emotions that the video makes you feel. And then we'll talk about that after we see the video.
Alaska is known as the last frontier, a wilderness full of potential, pushing the boundaries of what we know. Just like Nerds of the North do.
As the only FRC team in the state, we believe that everyone should have access to robotics.
No matter your age, gender,
or location.
Using online video conferencing, our members are spread over an area of over 450,000 miles.
we know the power of communities who work together.
So we constantly work to give back.
Whether that be teaching STEM education through summer camps or STEM day events.
We promote FIRST programs by volunteering at and organizing FLL and FTC events.
And we help provide resources to coaches and people interested in starting teams.
We also work to encourage literacy and STEM education in Alaska's youth.
Over the past 3 years, we have written a series of children's books. Following the main character, Riley Robot, our books teach children science, math, and social lessons.
We have partnered with other FIRST teams to translate these books into Spanish and Alaska Native languages, including Yupik, Chupik, and Tlingit.
In addition to promoting literacy, we are constantly working to serve as good role models for the next generation of engineers.
Showing Grace's professionalism,
cooperation,
and teamwork.
We're ready to keep braving this bold frontier.
To keep building.
To keep connecting.
and to keep growing
north to the future.
Okay, so after having watched that video, this is, I think the rest of the presentation is going to be anyone just unmuting and talking whenever they'd like. So does anyone want to comment on what they heard, what they saw, what they thought, and what they felt?
I didn't catch this till I was analyzing it this time, but I noticed how often the camera shifts. It's like every few seconds it'll change the video.
I
I
definitely
thought
like
the sound was pretty good in relation to the voices. It didn't overwhelm the voices. It could have been maybe lighter in some places, but for the most part, it was, you could still hear the people narrating quite well over the soundtrack.
I definitely felt the soundtrack was uplifting. Like I felt like something was going to happen that was exciting as we got to the end. I definitely felt there was a lot of young kids in the video. So that was interesting.
I might chime in. Is that weird, as I'm one of the presenters? But I was, I have to say, Taylor, and she will reflect on her experience here, but shortly after Taylor joined the team last year, we tasked her with creating that masterpiece. So nothing like trial by fire. And I have to say that after some quick analysis of other chairman's videos, I really like the way that you could hear different people on the team, even though our visuals weren't wasted necessarily on spending a lot of time on one person on camera. So we kept seeing visual changes, but we could hear different people speak. So we knew the makeup of your team was diverse in people, but we could see all the things you were doing, if that makes sense. So good job with that.
And really, when you look at this video, every single one of these elements kind of ties together and works with each other in some way, right? Because I mean, a lot of the goal behind the chairman's video and the chairman's award is kind of like to show off our team, but it's also like we were talking about, it's like one of those like kind of mushy, kind of like uplifting videos, right? And so you're hearing the students, I mean, you're hearing a diverse amount of voices talking about really positive subjects. We're also, like Vicky said, showing a bunch of different things. We weren't a fan of the whole front to front interview thing, so we didn't do that. It also makes you think about the team, right? And then especially with the soundtrack, like was commented on, the soundtrack was very much intentionally meant to be this uplifting thing, and it was supposed to make you feel like warm and fuzzy as you saw the kids and you saw the diversity of it. So yeah, every single one of these elements is really crucial in a video, and they all tie together really well toward whatever focus you have in the video itself. So if we go next, all of these, we just wanted to put these in here just so you could see it. We kind of talked about most of this, right? So voiceover, having that sound, the music is of course very important. Having video footage, you can also have photos in a video, but we might talk about that a little bit later. We're not the biggest fan of having photos in video because it's video for a reason. And then also another important element is if you decide to include text in the video, right? So we had our text in the bottom left corner because one of the things that the chairman's video does is it connects with the chairman's essay that we put together. And in our essay, we had these key focuses for the essay, right? And so then when the video went in correlation with that, we were able to block up the video into our key objectives that we were looking at. So text can also be a very vital part of the video.
Let's also chime in here as well that every video is very different. At the beginning, we proposed ideas of several different ways you might find your team uses video. I think Compass and Promote are similar in that they are to the chairman's FRC chairman's video in that it is an award. It is an award video being submitted based on criteria that's being requested by FIRST and meeting a specific objective. Whereas if your team decides they want to come up with a vlog or a robot reveal, there's really no set criteria for that. That's of your own will. And so I personally would recommend when you look at how you combine audio and visual ingredients for your videos, or in this case, we have a lot of coach presence tonight, when you are mentoring your students through making that decision, would be trying to help them think first of who their audience is. At all times, think about primarily who's your audience first, and how can your audience best perceive what's being communicated to them. So is it a voiceover that we're listening to while you're seeing visuals? Is it a person whose face is on camera speaking? Sound on tape is when you're actually hearing what the person is speaking at that moment. Or are we using text? A lot of students are really uncomfortable using their voices or videos on camera, so they prefer to just put titles. But that's honestly one of the very first things you might have to mentor students and like walk them away from the edge on, is that the whole thing is going to be just one big giant screen of text cluttering the visuals behind it. And so maybe encouraging them, is that actually helpful and beneficial to your audience? Or is that going to slow them down from perceiving your message? You have to do what's best to make sure they understand your message. Is that me too?
That is you.
All right. So speaking of perceiving messages, photos versus videos. So Taylor already mentioned the fact that, I mean, you certainly can put photos into a video. Really what you end up with is something that's more like a photo slideshow, which definitely has its purpose. But when you're looking for something that really, you're looking for something either more action driven, like a robot reveal, or something more emotional, like Chairman's Promote and Compass, the emotion and the actions that you're able to capture on video are just so much more profound. So I would highly recommend, if your team is going to place emphasis on growing in the area of video and video production, I'd recommend really helping them shift their focus as well to always collecting, make video footage and photography a part of the team's culture. That whenever you do an outreach event, whenever you're having a big breakthrough with a robot, whenever, even right now in a virtual world, when they are at their homes, if you make it part of your team's culture, hey, the robot's up and running, that's great. Did you get a picture? Did you get a video? And try to really encourage also the video. I think that, and Taylor's later going to talk about her experience trying to locate and collect footage and photos from all of this and reflect on that process. And I think it's going to be a much better process if you focus on making it part of your team's culture. And still mine, and then I promise, turn it back over to Taylor. So shots, angles, if you are ready for the next challenge, if you have students on your team who really want to take it even a step further, this is definitely not crucial to the very foundations of making any kind of video, but Lawton observed earlier how quickly shots change in between the different shots, right? And if you wanted to watch any kind of movie these days and count how long one shot is held on screen, I think you'll find that in a faster paced movie, it's every 4 seconds on average. And so people get bored, visually bored. We don't realize we get that bored. And the more diverse set of shots you have to work with, the easier that makes the editing and the more interesting it makes it. So if you have students who want to take it the extra mile with videography, I would recommend you send them in the direction of researching different shot sizes, angles, and movements. This is also how you can take your videos the next step in looking professional. For instance, camera movements. There are very precise, specific movements like panning, tracking, pedestal up and down, tilting up and down, easing in and out of shots. But those are all very deliberate and steady, as opposed to a handheld camera that's just shaking all over the place. So it can make a very distinct difference between amateur and taking it the next step. So I think also with shot angles, there's a lot of psychological messages you send there. A high angle looking down at someone can make them look powerless and weak. A low angle looking up towards them makes them look powerful and strong. Just lots of really fun things. I won't go into depth in it because it's a short workshop, but this would be a really great path for your video interested students to go explore more.
Okay, so the next bit is talking all about workflow and planning, right? I'm going to talk about a little bit my experience with making these videos. So of course, kind of the first thing that you're going to have to do is write the physical script for what you want to do. So over on the side here, I have photos of actual scripts that we have written for the team. So they're in two different kind of formats. The first format that we have here where it says final script, that's the actual script for our chairman's video. And you can see I have the words that are actually being said in bold, and then the actions or what I want to see kind of just italicized. Another similar format of that we do with the rest of the videos that I've converted everything to is just having text and images. So the text, this one's messed up. It says images and text on the wrong side. But on the left-hand side, I've got the text, and on the right-hand side, I have what I actually want to see. But what you first want to do is you want to figure out what you guys want to say and get that physical script down. But then while you're making that script, you have so many other things that you have to consider when making the video, right? So one of the big things that you want to consider is the video that you're shooting, the shots that you have. Do you already have like done shots that you have as like an archive? So like we have, I had access to all the FRC photos and videos for the past 5 years because the team has had, they've had some videos from then. Or do you have to take the time and shoot something? Do you have specific shots in mind that you have to get done? Because that's going to have to come into your overall deadline, right? So the second part is audio. You have, if you're doing something like we did with the chairmans, where you are getting a voiceover, you need to figure out what they're saying. You also need to figure out a deadline by when you need the audio by. You also have to make sure that they actually know how to record themselves, which can be an issue now with COVID. But those are things that you have to keep in mind as well. Also, the music is super important in my mind. Music is always the first thing that I look for when making a video. I think it really sets the overall tone and emotion for the video. Important thing you have to make sure, especially when you're doing videos like this for a team, make sure the video doesn't have any copyright or issues that are going to come up later. Make sure it's like all of that safe stuff. You also need to set the time for how long you want to get this done. So in my personal experience, when setting deadlines for a project, I will always set the deadlines a little bit sooner than when I actually want it by. Because in my experience, especially getting audio from people, in COVID times, it's a little bit different. When it's actually physical times, I will be there physically coaching people through how to say their lines and say their audio. I will be holding a mic for them, which is really, really useful to students because oftentimes people have to re-say it or they won't hear. But if it's like right now, when you're having people have to do that individually, I've learned that people will usually forget about the deadline or they will get nervous about it. So what I do is I set the deadline a little bit before because I anticipate that that's going to happen. And usually I get all my audio by the time that I need it. And then you'll have to set your own deadlines about when you need the script to be done and when you need to get any shots. And all of that stuff are super important factors that have to come into play when thinking up the script for a video and thinking up the timeline for a video. There's so many more things that you have to take into account than your actual script. I think next.
I can chime in really quick to respond to a question I see in chat about, there was a follow-up question about copyright-free music. I can tell you there's royalty-free, freeplaymusic.com, I believe is one. There was one that was something like royalty-free. Your major search terms are going to be Creative Commons, if something's Creative Commons, and then look for the licensing information still. So there's always a whole slew of websites out there. A lot of them require pay per song, but they can be as much as 99 cents per song. I have purchased $20 songs that just sound just a little bit better than free music, and it just makes a little bit of a good difference, and that's 20 bucks. So another one would be, if you look at the license, make sure that it's okay for posting to YouTube, but that you're not, it's okay for it to not be commercial. You're not earning money off of it. So that's what you need to look for, because some of them might be still categorized as that, but not with a license that you can post on YouTube. Then another one would be, there's an artist, Dexter Britton, whose music was in that video that I direct a lot of people to. He's actually a soundtrack artist professionally, has done soundtracks for movies, but has several sets of Creative Commons albums he's made specifically for people to use their music freely. So Dexter Britton's a good one. Bandcamp, I think, was one, a website you can search. And then another one is Envato or Envato, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, ENVATO, Elements, which is subscription-based or purchase songs as you go. And this one's me again. I just wanted to show you this as, once again, for that student who just wants to take video production a little bit further. Here's kind of your differentiation for them. You can give them their next challenge, which would be something that's more along the lines of a film production skill. So on your left, you see an example of a storyboard where you would actually sketch out and plan. You can use the arrows to show motion. This is usually used more for like a narrative type film, so something that has a plot to it, which is not necessarily beyond the scope of something I could see teams doing. I could see teams, well, in FLL it would be super relevant. I could see teams making a short film, right? But usually you have plot lines and this is when you're planning exactly what shots you're going to film to tell a story. You can do it for more documentary or informational content like we're talking about. And then off to the right is where you plan out those shots. A shot list is usually organized more on like Taylor differentiated between the archived footage or photos you already have access to from past events versus I have to go out and film these things. A shot list is what you might use on a team to collaborate on, hey, these are the specific shots we need, but we're all collectively working off of it. So I'm also going to maybe designate, hey, so-and-so, can you get shot number 3? And maybe you'd group them so that if there's a shot, like maybe there's 5 shots you want from a woodsy outdoor park setting, you might have one team member go out and do shots 1 through 5. And so they're grouped and organized in such a way. If you have a student who's taking the leadership in planning the overall film, they might have made those shot lists, but they also see in their head, hey, I want a wide shot of the park, and I want a really close up of the water going through the creek. So that's something that they're then able to communicate. Once again, this is the above and beyond kind of step. This is a little bit more along the filmmaking lines, but who knows? This is a very strange year. So maybe you all end up with full-on filmmaking crews on your team. And then you can point them in this direction. Tell them to go look up storyboards and shot lists.
So now kind of into the more nuts and bolts nitty gritty of what we're actually using, what we're actually doing. So here are just some softwares that we could think of. If anyone else knows of any software that they have used, please feel free to chime in. Essentially what we have is these softwares from like cheapest to most expensive. Personally, I have used iMovie and Final Cut Pro. All the videos that I have been doing for FRC are on Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro is expensive. You can make really nice videos on software that is very cheap or you can get for free as well. You do not have to go into your first video project buying the most expensive thing that you can, because especially with these really advanced softwares, it takes a lot of learning to learn how to use them. Yeah. So that's kind of what we've got, unless anyone else has any other software that they've had experience with or recommends for the group. Okay, we can move on then. That's you, Vicky.
All right. So I see this question was already asked in chat, but hardware recommendations and also kind of getting into the nuts and bolts of, in the next slide, we'll kind of talk about tips and tricks for both filming and editing. So honestly, smartphones, their video quality these days is, I think, perfectly fine for the applications of all of this video editing, including the free level video editing software available. I would say by all means, do not, like, if it's a matter of buying motors for robots or buying a DSLR, use your smartphone. If it's a matter of getting, helping a student travel to a competition down the road or having a subscription to Final Cut Pro or use your smartphone. It's totally fine. It's great footage. One big pointer there is that for the editing process, please join my message to the world to stop filming like this. When it gets to the video editor, there's definitely ways that they can put like a transparent blurred out or a blurred out version of the video behind it blown up. You might see it on the news channels like that. It does look way less professional. And so yes, landscape is preferred over vertical. That can be another part of embracing as a team. But absolutely, the other thing about having just smartphone level footage is that you're not saying that you've got designated photographers and videographers on your team. It is now, again, part of the team culture. You three signed up to do this event. Great, I need someone from that team to film something. And they didn't have to like go check out a camera somewhere or worry that their footage is going to be a weird quality compared to the others. I have had some FTC teams already approach me and ask about what kind of equipment I would recommend if you do have the budget for it. So I put together just a very simple list of like, if you do want to take the next step with some equipment. The first area I would suggest would actually be audio. So while your phones take good quality video, I think the audio interference of just environment sounds and just even hand holding it, the clunking, the muffled wristing of muffling it, I would recommend investing in microphones as one of your first steps. A nice lavalier mic, you can see a picture of that one below that clips there. You can get the kind that with an adapter that clips right into a smartphone. That lav mic is crucial if you're going to be doing any kind of voiceover recording or any kind of on-camera interviews. There have been years that the FRC team did on camera where they're standing about as far away as I am from the camera right now and kind of giving a testimonial type interview. And that does have a place sometimes in video and can be really profound, but only if you can hear them. So that's the microphone there, or a shotgun mic. If you're going to be doing that kind of on-camera stuff, I recommend a very small light. They can come very cheap. And then if beyond that, I would recommend a tripod. This is actually in order of my recommendation. I recommend a tripod before I recommend a DSLR. And that's a lot coming from me because I sure love cameras. So I think having a stable video is more important than having a fancy DSLR filming it. And again, that is huge coming from me. So if you're going to invest in a video camera of some kind, I would say, you know what, a digital single lens reflex DSLR is the way to go. That's the picture of the Canon there. That being the fact that your team can now take really nice pictures and really nice video. So it's made for both. You guys can get really nice photos for your websites too. Gimbal or GoPro? You know, I know Lawton's gonna hate this. I know Lawton, you sure love your GoPro. I find a more limited use for the GoPro, honestly, for like, it's cool to put on a robot every now and then. It's not near as diverse in use. A gimbal, yeah, there's a Pocket Osmo, that's really sweet. I think most of you've gotten to use mine. Or Roche has one too, I think. That's a nice little, they have these attachments you can put onto your camera or onto your phone to steady that. That would also be, I'd rank that along with the tripod before the DSLR. So if you could get some kind of attachment, a gimbal is going to keep your camera steady as you're trying to walk around and navigate. So I would rank that definitely ahead of getting a DSLR. Taylor, you go. I'm done answering his questions.
Drone shots. That's nice that you think that I've operated a drone. I'm trying to think of, well, if you can come up with a way that it would be very useful and you also have a drone, then go for it. I haven't seen any need for me to use a drone in any of the videos that I've ever done. I wouldn't say go buy a drone to take a drone shot, unless you have one. That's not very high on my recommended list. Hope that doesn't make anyone upset, but no, that's not.
I did once have a student use video editing for robotics as justification to buy stuff, have his family help buy stuff. So if that's what you're trying to do, yes, you need a drone.
I've got a question kind of relating to this. I'm not sure if you're going to cover it later, but I know I've seen a lot of, especially robot reveal videos, which do a lot with lighting and a lot with focus. Especially the focus, do you need a camera with a physical lens you can like twist?
Yeah, I think you're talking about like racking shots where it goes from blurred to in focus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you could use it. A lot of times you're either physically twisting the lens to put it into focus, or some DSLRs with touch screens, you can touch on the screen and it will focus on something closer and then touch on the item you want it to refocus on. And it's a little bit of a smoother shift in focus there. I believe there's like some apps and stuff you can get on phones that would mimic that same appearance. I haven't ever looked into that though. And lighting, what were you thinking of with lighting?
I just see some robot reveal videos in FRC where they have it so like the background's all black and they just have like a little spotlight as they pan the camera. Maybe that's more fancy than it we're trying to do though.
That's fancy. You could pull that off with just, there are simple lighting kits you can get, or shoot, that could be even, depending on how big of a spotlight you need, you could actually really use like a flashlight or a giant kind of spotlight like you might use for construction. You can also rent lights from like Stewart Photo. That you can rent equipment there. So if you did ever want to experiment with equipment and have that in your budget, you can always rent. That does sound really fancy though.
That does sound very fancy. Personally, I love a good shot that goes from blurry to focus. As you probably have seen, Lawton, from our robot reveal video, which was 90% of that. I loved it. I think it's very dramatic. It is very cool. It's one of my favorite shots to do. It's easy to mess with focus on stuff though. I've never tried to mess with focus on a video on my phone, but you can mess around with the focus very easily on a phone. And then on the camera I was using, it was very easy too. Okay, I think we should move on to our assorted tips and tricks that Vicky and I have compiled. Do you want to go first or should I?
I can't see our notes because I'm screen sharing.
How about your tip about laying down audio then aligning B-roll?
Thank you. Thanks for that pointer. All right. So when actually editing videos together, here's something that I found is really helpful. If you are relying on your audio to tell your story, whether it's from on-camera interviews or from voiceover recordings, lay that track down first and then edit your visuals. I think a lot of people get so swept away with all the visuals they want to pack into the video. And then they also get really, really, really emotionally attached to the way their video is laid out. And then they start matching their audio up and they realize, oh, we only have 2 seconds to show and pair with footage that I have 15 seconds plotted out with. And now I have to gut-wrenchingly throw apart my work and only select 2 seconds worth of it. So I do recommend first plotting out your narrative part. And that includes then if you do have any part of the narration being told by titles on screen, making sure that's stretched out long enough so that you can actually read the titles fully and then even give a couple seconds of counting afterwards for the slow readers. So just make sure everybody has a chance to digest that information before it moves on. So if you get your narration, which most often is going to be through audio, plot it out before you go matching up any kind of visuals, which we call B-roll, that additional support footage that it then cuts away to. And so that's my recommendation for your workflow within editing. I will also add that time and time again, I've worked with students who are editing and they are just fatigued and they're done and they're like, I hate this project, I'm done with it. It's been 5 years and it's been 5 hours, but they're done with it. And I'll say, why don't you just throw a song in there? Even if it's not your favorite song, just throw a song in there. And they're like, no, I just hate it, I'm done. They throw a song in there and it is like a good night of rest. Like they are so energized. The music makes such a difference. So when students are just kind of like fading, that's the first thing I check in with is, have you put your music or even just set it aside, pick out a song and put it in there, even if it's temporary editing. A lot of it you will want to paste to music, so you don't want to go right up until the end without a permanent song picked out, but it's just really re-energizing and it really helps the editing go much faster.
Also, another personal thing, I love matching things up to audio, which is also very obvious in our chairman's video and our robot reveal. It's very, audio is like, music is my favorite part of video editing. It's very fun to match it up. Additionally, one of our tips, which we've already said, but I want to restate it so much, please no vertical video. Just please. I feel like the only time I have ever had to have my phone in an upright position is to do an Instagram story. And your students may also feel that way, or the members of your team may also feel that way. And just be used to doing vertical videos. Do not let them do it, please. It will make everyone so much happier in the long term. I cannot stress this enough. Next, this is really important. Don't be afraid to tell people to like redo shots or redo audio. It's a very awkward situation to be in the first time that somebody has to ask somebody to do something over again. But having another ear on audio or having another eye on the video that you're taking is so useful in the long term for a video, especially when someone is recording audio for a team. In my experience, the first take never really goes that good. You're either going really fast or you've stumbled or like there was noise in the background. So having like when it's in person, we have somebody actually listening to the audio as it happens and just letting them go over it. But having people redo audio, like when there's a problem, is super, super useful. And it's also good to let everyone know that like redoing audio and video is a super normal part of the video process. It is not a reflection of like somebody is terrible at taking voiceover. No, everyone does it. Everyone messes up. Sometimes you have to have multiple takes. How many times do we make people redo stuff normally? Depends on the person. Some people, everyone has different issues. I found that I talk too fast. Some people just stutter. Sometimes there's just like loud background noise. I've read 2 to 3 times, sometimes 4. But also another thing, if you have people re-listen to their audio, sometimes you're your worst critic and you'll have people will redo it themselves too, which is super useful. It just depends on the person. Some people get it right first take, which is amazing, but normally that does not happen.
Yeah, so I'll chime in on that one as well. There's, I've, with the College of Engineering and then some of the kind of side video editing that I've been doing recently, a lot of the video work has suddenly turned into having to give people instructions on how to film or record themselves, as opposed to me being able to control the environment. So it's been a very big shift in video editing and video production recently. And so I've gotten into the habit of asking for at least 2, and it does depend on if I'm working with adults or if I'm working with like people who've never ever done any video recording versus some who I think live and breathe in that environment a bit more. So at minimum, I ask for 2 shots of what they send me. And I also, in addition to asking for 2, have found that it's a lot easier to get responses from people right now in this environment with a script. So I've done the kinds of videos where you say, hey, I'm gonna montage together a video saying, please tell me what you're thankful for. And people will get so bent out of shape trying to think about, ooh, what's gonna be my profound world-changing response, that they never actually film themselves because they're bent out of shape over what their response is, plus actually having to record themselves, plus having to like have their audio clear. So right now, my personal success has been more so of scripting it out and saying, hey, so-and-so, can you please say exactly this line on camera? And I always send a screenshot of just the diagram showing the composition of the shot so they can see I need to be this size in the frame and not this size in the frame. And it again takes some of the worries and concerns off their plates. And so just setting some really simple, not anything that they have to read a novel or else they'll never actually follow through. But it does still then maintain like some decent consistency to your video and helps with timelines of getting things turned back to you on time.
Yeah, with our most recent video project that we're working on as a team, that's also one of the things that I've learned too, is when I find the people who are actually willing to record, I will make sure that they already have a completed script and they already have a completed timeline. So the only thing that they have to do is say words. And then we have questions. Is there a good workflow for taking students' video from camera to the phone to the editing team? Should they upload to a drive, and where to put videos? YouTube. It depends on what platform you're actually using to communicate and share stuff as a team. From my experience, what I do is I found that Google Drive is the best way for people to upload things and then like we can all access it. So normally what I will do is I will tell people, as a team we have a shared Google Drive, so I will tell them exactly where I just want them to drop the video or audio into. I'll make a folder for them. And then where to put, I assume, finished videos, is that the question? We upload on YouTube. We have a team YouTube. And also a good majority of the videos go also up on social media because we want as many people to see them as we can. And it kind of depends on the constraints of the media platform that you're using. Because some social media will only let it go like a minute. So it kind of depends on what you're using.
I'll also say for posting videos online afterwards, as a marketing tip, a rule of thumb, even though YouTube is a really great place to host and actually like the thing about YouTube is it's discoverable there too. People just end up down these like endless rabbit trails through YouTube, just discovering cool content and something you're like, where's the last 3 hours gone? But so that's great to have your content there. But as far as those who you've built a relationship with through social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, whatever you guys are using as a team, a general rule of thumb is that you upload the videos on that platform itself as well. And it sounds redundant, but people are lazy. We are human people, lazy people. And so if you click a link and it brings you to a different tab, we give up. I don't know how we survive as a species, but we give up. We're like, oh, that's so much work. So we tend to only watch it if it's right there on Facebook. And they've got analytics that prove it time and time again. And so the general marketing rule is, yeah, you put it on YouTube, you put it on Facebook, you put it on Instagram. Yep, it's in all those places because we need things to be easy.
Vicky, the resolution question, 180p, right? That is it. That is the normal resolution.
I don't know if I believe that's your last question. So yes, here's the thing about, like, for instance, on YouTube, you can upload, and then I prefer to upload to a higher quality because people can always adjust what they play it back at. And so if you have good quality footage, I'd go ahead and upload it at that. And again, they can scale it down to what their bandwidth can actually support. As far as always think about where you're using it and what the highest end of the use would be for, and plan for that. So imagine if you, for instance, submitted your video for something like a chairman's award and then won. Do you want them to have access to a downgraded quality of the footage, or that they're actually going to see the best quality video? Again, they can, in most platforms, scale back what they are watching. And then also, as far as like how you, I know you mentioned earlier in what you're hoping to get out of this workshop, as far as like what quality footage people should be filming too. I would once again go back to the idea of the fewest hurdles you can put in front of your team members to have to be thinking about every time you're asking them to take a video, the better. So if you're now also instructing like, oh, make sure it's this resolution, and I would say just work with what you've got. And if you are going to try to like keep it at a particular resolution or file size, do that when you're exporting from your video editing project itself. So there are export options there where you can change like the encoding and the export file size and all of that file format. Yeah, and again, based on where you're hosting it and why. If it's something like a video header on the website and you want it to be able to load quickly and not for it to make your end audience have to wait for it to load, yeah, I would scale that one down.
Also, for anyone watching on YouTube, I did misspeak. I meant 1080. If your resolution is 180, it's not gonna look good at all. Just 1080, please.
I didn't catch that.
Okay. Oh, another one of our tips, which I mean we've also brought up, but like really want to hammer it home. Trying to make like taking photos and videos a part of like the culture of your team is super, super important. It makes it so much easier whenever you want to make a video later to just have stuff from throughout the season instead of struggling to find that like one photo that somebody took. And then what's also really important is having like a definite place to organize and archive them as the season actually goes on. So for us, we use a team, Google Photos, that people have access to, or people can send them to people who will put them in Google Photos. But we have that one place where whenever I need to go somewhere or a video editor needs to go somewhere to find footage, we have it all nice and organized in folders with years, and then we can just go through and find it super easily. What's also a little above and beyond if you're just starting out with video editing and video production, but is super, super useful, is if you can, like, to train your team how to like properly take footage or properly take audio. That's super, super helpful. That's one of the things that we will be implementing this year, is we're absolutely going to be making a document telling people how to properly take footage, how to properly take audio. And in the long term, it is going to help out your team so much. If everyone just knows a couple basics on how to do stuff, it's going to make all your future videos much more high quality and much more enjoyable to edit.
I'm gonna kind of another part of that would be for the, I think once a person has gone through the video editing part of this, they start to understand the value in the variety of footage. But until you've gone through that process, it may not be intuitive why someone might say, hey, can you make sure to grab some photos at this event? And again, I know this is based on a more traditional year where you're actually going to events, but it's the real life examples here. Hey, take some photos at the event, and they come back with 3 almost identical wide shots of people doing their thing at this event. And they're almost the same, except maybe one person moved a couple feet in between shots, right? Part of editing it all together is being able to cut between shots that are showing different things, but also showing them through different ways. So the movement from having a wide shot to a close-up that's showing the emotion to something that's wider that shows the context of where you're at and maybe the scope of how many students you're impacting, to something that's a close-up to showing the action of helping a kid put together a bracelet, to the facial emotion, to somebody driving a robot and looking perplexed. So a combination of having all that footage to work with is so valuable. So again, going back to the training your team, I would say not just in how to collect the good quality footage, but helping them also recognize, like, get at least 3 different shots in angle, like maybe 3 different compositions, like 3 different shot sizes. Make sure you get a variety of shots so we have lots to work with. If you are planning to do a website, which we did a workshop on a couple weeks back, photos for the website are always really crucial too. It's nice to have something to choose from.
Excuse me. That was like what we had written down for our tips, and it looks like we are very quickly nearing the end of our time. But if anybody else had any quick questions that we could answer.
You can ask another question, Roach. You look like you're trying to keep it in.
Any specific tutorials that you would recommend?
I would have to ask what's the software you're using. It would be, for me, more dependent on your software. Do you have any idea yet what you guys would be using to edit? No? Okay.
No idea.
Okay.
I know Caden has, in the past, Caden has videoed. In fact, he's got hours of footage of, he used to video every team meeting when we were meeting live past years. But what he used to actually compile that, I have no idea.
Okay. Yeah, I would say I typically, I mean, all my videography skills are self-taught, but by self-taught sounds much more glamorous than it is. I was YouTube taught. I mean, I Google search everything I want an answer to. So, I mean, you take the name of your software, and even if you don't know the description of what it is you're trying to figure out, if you put 5 sentences in there trying to describe a picture that starts out blurry but then gets focused, you will find your answer. And if you're not sure the search term, you're welcome to shoot me an email and I might be able to help you out too. So, or Taylor. Taylor's great at this stuff.
I am also very much YouTube taught. I've done different learning platforms, but I mean, yeah, if you, there's actually like really nice beginner software, entire videos out there. I mean, you have to come through them. But also the YouTube and the internet has like just your answers to any question, really, especially when it comes to video production.
I will point you in the direction of one really great video that you may want to watch before you decide if you want to show it to your students or not, called Just Say No to Vertical Video. It is slightly crass. So watch at your own discretion and decide if it's something you're comfortable showing your students. It's not so bad. I did maybe upset one student once, so watch it first, decide what you think.
I'm enamored by the soundtrack, about how it really focuses the viewer's attention and really kind of stitches the different scenes together. And so any tips you might have on I mean, I've got Dexter Brian, I got pulled up on my on a web page here, kind of I've found his Creative Commons. That was a tip you gave, Vicki.
That was Dexter Britton, right?
Yeah, it's Dexter, DexterBritton.com.
Cool. Yep.
But any tips on how you find this this music and that kind of thing? How you figure it out?
Ooh, okay, yes, this is my favorite part. I have so many opinions. The first bit, I like to have a script in mind. I like to have what I know in mind before I start looking at the music, but I look at the music incredibly early on in the process. I think the first question I ask myself is like, what emotion do I want? And like, what am I trying to convey? So for our robot reveal video, I know I wanted something really punchy and loud, and that was kind of a little bit in your face. And I knew that for the Sherman's video, I really wanted like the pull at your heartstrings type thing. So then when it came to Dexter Britton's one, usually I'll listen to the first 15 seconds. If it doesn't have the emotion I want, I leave, I go find another one. If it kind of has what I want, I'll listen to it through and I'll try to see if I can imagine this in the video with the shots that I have. When it's not someone like Dexter Britton, we use Envato Elements a lot. And sites like that have like just so many songs to go through, it's kind of an interesting search to navigate. Usually in sites like that where just a bazillion people are putting audio in, I will try to think of an emotion or like a single word that encapsulates the video I want. I'll pop it in, and usually there will be a bunch of songs that either have that in their search categories or as the title. So I think I looked up inspirational, and I think that's what got me the song for our chairman's award. But knowing how to keyword search is actually like very useful when it comes to finding the music that you want. I don't know, Vicky, if you have more tips.
Absolutely. Yeah, the keywords, and I think perfect, like starting with your emotion. I would also say there's most of the websites, and you're right, like when you get all of those artists on there who I think are trying to get visible, and so they're just dumping all this content on there, and I'll be honest, a lot of it is straight up crap. It's awful. And so you have to wade through a lot of that. And so I would say, yes, the emotion, and you can also edit or set the filters based on the pace. And so I would change the tempo to, if you know right away, like for robot reveal, you want something that's a faster tempo. And so go ahead and select that. Otherwise, you're going to be wading through that many songs that are really dreary. And the other one is some of them will give you the option to choose whether you want something that's instrumental or not. That's a really great one because you'll find someone with vocals that's trying to make it in the world on there and probably not necessarily the tone you want or have to listen to their lyrics. And then another pointer there would be the song length. So I think a video can feel more complete if you are allowed to listen to the naturally built in and faded out, like the beginning and closing of the song. So if you can find a song that matches the actual intended length of your video, I would recommend looking for that. So a lot of them allow you to set a range for like minimum of this length, maximum of this length. And then be mindful of and wary of loops. You will end up with loops in there that don't have a beginning or end. So just a heads up to look for those. Those are meant to just continue them on forever. So you'll lose the charm of something that builds in or builds out. And then one more thought on that would be, for a while, my biggest complaint, it's getting a little better out there, but you'd hear these really promising songs that they'd start out and you'd be like, oh, this is pulling at my heartstrings the right way. I think this is going to work. I'm like envisioning all my footage. And then like a couple of measures in, they introduce some like 1980s instrument that just ruins it. It changes everything and it turns super cheesy. So I have stopped just listening through. If I like the intro, I skip ahead and just listen somewhere about 1/3 of the way through. And I would say about 60% of the time, it's not worth it and I move on. So I just skip around to make sure it doesn't evolve into something I don't like. Not that there's something wrong with 80s instruments. Maybe that's the looking for. A lot of synth going on.
Yeah, thanks for that. A couple days ago, I was on wikiloops.com. And there I was trying to figure out how to search. And so what I was doing is picking my instrumentation. So I was looking for something as a backup to my voice. So I said, oh, how about like a bass line versus anyway, Anyway, thanks for the tips.
I know I'm so full, like I've been really in the music. I've been searching for music lately for video that I just have not found yet. So I will tell you one other, and I don't know the right word for it, but the where you can see the audio, where you can see the audio in the bar underneath, where you can see like if it's louder or quieter. You know what I'm talking about, the audio track. A lot of music websites, you can actually see that ahead of time, and that will give you a really good indicator, like if this is a song that builds, like if you want this to be a song that like builds to some peak emotion, then I look, and there's a lot of them that are just super flat. Nope, that's good, just quiet background music. And so if you're looking at, like, for me, my internet's been struggling recently, I'm not even going to hit play on something that just goes straight across like that. I'm going to see how it builds and then fades out. I know that time is, we've already technically gone over, but I do know Taylor also has an example of a video editing project on her computer she's prepared to share if you guys would like to see what that looks like. Nothing like putting you on the spot, Taylor.
Oh, I just had to pull it up really quick. I have to pull it from my hard drive because it's too powerful. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Is it angry yet? No, okay. Okay, it's pulling up everything really quick. Okay. Is this the right video? Yes. Okay, I had this up earlier. This is kind of what it looks like on the back end. Oh, there we go. Let's go to the front here. Oh, this is like one of the coolest tips I have ever gotten. I got this from Vicky. This was the first thing she taught me when I joined the team. We talked a little bit about how like it can be really devastating when you like have plotted it all out and you lose your progress. If you put in one of these like blank screens and then put all of your clips on it and all of your audio underneath it, if you have to get rid of a clip, it won't suddenly move the entire bit after it, like back 30 seconds after you've already timed it to the audio. It is the best tip I've ever learned, and it has saved all of my videos. If I can teach you one thing, I must teach you that. But this is just what it looks like. There's the sound underneath here with the different takes underneath it here. I mess with the sound, so this is obviously higher than this. I've got a fade in right here. One of the cool things about Final Cut is that you can actually like test videos. So these grayed out ones don't actually show up. It was me messing around with stuff, but I never deleted it. And you see down here too, the audio that I have is just all grayed out. But you have your things up there, you have your transitions, and it cuts with the music. Not sure. Vicky, you have anything to say about this?
No, I think that absolutely the tip with the steady timeline of the black, just a placeholder essentially there, so that if you, especially when you're trying to pace it to a voiceover or your music, I think when you're getting to the level of like having everything in its right place and you're having to decide whether you cut from one shot to the next here or here, and it's a matter of if you're going to do it on the beat or not, that can just, it makes your everything just click better, and it's just much more smooth video if you can have it changing shots on the beat. And so if you're adjusting that further, like earlier on in the video, and you had just perfected it further down, it would just screw it all up if it was on its actual timeline. So that's why putting it above that black spacer bar. So yeah, that would be, yeah, the number one priority there. The auditioning clips and then like graying them out is really nice about Final Cut. I think you're going to find that in all the professional level video editing software, as well as look at how many layers Taylor's got going on there. So that's another added benefit of most more professional levels is the fact that you can have many, many layers. There are some free ones that do that as well. The transitions, the titles. What do you guys have for questions for the editing itself? I will say there was, what was it? It was further that way. I don't remember what it was I saw. Yes, I do agree. See, it is as complicated as making a robot. Yes, so be sure to thank your videographers today.
This took many, many hours to complete.
I wouldn't ask any more questions, but what's the frame rate? Do you do 30 frames per second or 60?
So the footage that you have that people have recorded will have been recorded at different frame rates depending on how they've filmed it. For Final Cut Pro, based on the very first footage you import, when you say I want to make a new project, you can either set it then, or if you say I want to make a new project and here it pulls up that footage, it's going to say, it's going to suggest your new project based on that frame rate. And so this one's probably, I'm guessing, at 60, but I'm not even sure.
I don't know.
It's most often it just automatically selects it, and since your footage is going to be all over the place, I wouldn't worry about it too much. What layers, audio? Oh, I will tell you that there are some post-editing things you can do to correct things like crooked shots or really unstable shots, but they really alter the footage a lot. So for instance, in Final Cut, and again, with some of the higher end video editing software, you can run it through image stabilization. But in order to do that, it actually like adjusts the movement of the shot within the frame to compensate. So it has to crop in to do that, right? And so you end up, if you do run, there you go, thank you. If you do run in image stabilization, it's pretty unpredictable what your composition is going to be to end with. So if you already had a perfectly framed shot like this, you might end up with this. So it's a gamble. So that's where I would again say, if you do have the ability to coach your team ahead of time in how to take quality footage, how to take really stable shots, and again, one of the smallest things you can improve to make it look leaps and bounds more professional would be to straighten your camera out. When you've got a crooked horizon, or like there's a pillar in the background and it looks like it's leaning, we can adjust it. You can adjust it on there and rotate the image a bit, and then you'd have to zoom it in to get rid of the black corners. So once again, it messes with your composition. Actually, Final Cut has the ability to do keyframes, so you can adjust frame by frame by frame the location on the screen. You can change frame by frame the color, saturation. You can have something frame by frame change how much of it shows. We have the Riley Robot intro video that has frame by frame more or less of the Riley Robot in the rocket ship showing, and the lettering based on where he flies across. So it's really getting into like animation level. And so it allows for down to the frame level of every aspect of the video. Probably a little beyond what you'd want to necessarily start with.
Yeah, keyframes are advanced. They're super fun once you get to do them, but they're kind of a lot.
Other questions, thoughts?
I will stop screen sharing then. Oop.
Okay. Well, I think that's it from us, unless you guys had questions.
If not, I guess we can end off just giving a plug for one final workshop. We're not doing anything next week because of Thanksgiving, but the week after that will be Control Award and programming. So hope to see you all there. Thanks for coming, and thanks Taylor and Vicky for presenting.
Yeah, thank you so much. Lots of information to chew on.
Oh, good. And we want to see your videos. Make sure to, if your team starts making videos, let us know. We'd love to look at them.
I got to go pound on Caden.
All right, cool.
You guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.